the virality and I'll say the rebirth of this brand has really been through social and what we call the social flywheel.
Okay, welcome back to the Marketing Playbook presented by Uptick and Attentive. Here you'll take away 3 game-winning marketing plays every episode to take back to your team. I'm your host, Mark Friedman, and my career has been focused on direct-to-consumer marketing, direct mail, physical retail, and digital commerce. This is episode number 128, and my guest is Jamie Gersch. Jamie's the Chief Marketing Officer at Rothy's, and she's held a number of awesome marketing roles with Gap Brand, Old Navy, and Charlotte Russe. We had a great conversation about the Rothy's brand and how important it is to be in all places that the customers want you to be, your own site, retail stores, wholesale, and then all of the ways that customers consume data about their favorite brands, and also how those channels are continuing to evolve. I hope you enjoy the show. But before we get started, a quick thank you, as always, to Max Brandstetter of the Wow Business Growth Podcast for producing this episode. You can reach him at maxpodcasting.com to help bring your podcast to life. Let's open the playbook. Ready, break. Well, hello, everyone. Thank you for joining the Marketing Playbook Podcast. Today, I'm joined by Jamie Gersch. As the Chief Marketing Officer at Rothy's, Jamie oversees global brand marketing and e-commerce strategies to expand Rothy's community of millions of loyal customers. Joining Rothy's in December 2022, Jamie's renowned for crafting purpose-driven campaigns that enhance brand equity and relevance, aligned with Rothy's vision to create a more sustainable and stylish future. Before joining Rothy's, Jamie led Old Navy's global marketing team, fostering brand love through a democratic approach to style for the entire family. Personally dedicated to ensuring all marketing elements reflect the brand's true essence and emotionally resonate with consumers, Jamie's a recognized industry leader, named as one of the top 50 CMOs by Forbes CMO Next. She graduated cum laude from Colgate University with a BA in sociology. Jamie serves on the board of Boys and Girls Clubs of America and Ometria, a retail technology company. She resides in Marin County with her husband, Jordan, and their 3 children, Sam, Noah, and Abby. Jamie, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. Thanks for doing it. Look forward to chatting. I made a little call out for Colgate Patriot League. I'm a Lafayette College grad, so I affiliate Patriot League.
We love that. Love that.
So we always start the show, 120 some odd shows, same way. I'm a creature of habit. We love to get the first story from each of our guests, kind of what their background, has been and what might have been part of their, early childhood and upbringing that would have suggested that their career would have taken the shape that it has.
Yeah, I love this question because I go back to my early days growing up in New York, and I was a competitive athlete. And I played tennis from a very young age and then actually went to Colgate to play tennis. And I think, growing up as a female and a girl athlete, competitive sports really shaped who I was and am. And, there are a lot of studies out there that look at female executives and the role sports has played in how they lead today. And I think, it all resonates with me. And I think a lot of the competitive nature I have was born through that, born as a New Yorker, and now translates into business and, wanting to do my best, do the best for the business, and see brands succeed.
So when you were at Colgate and you were, playing tennis and you were starting to think about, what do I want to do with the rest of my life? How did the experience at Colgate or the tennis experience kind of play into that, especially as you were looking for your first role out of school?
Liberal, this best, Mark, liberal arts education, I think is amazing. And it just teaches you to think. And I was a sociology degree major. And it really my love of people and society and cultures and what makes people tick, I think really translates to consumers, and my love of understanding what moves consumers and moves customers to behave comes directly from the sociology, the study that I did at Colgate. That combined with the competitive nature of just being, a college athlete, I think those two things combined really made me realize that I wanted to move into business and marketing in general.
Yeah, liberal arts for a long time, certainly when I was, looking at colleges, got a bad rap. Kids went there, the thinking was kids went there, they didn't know what they wanted to do. They wanted to get a 4-year degree. But, after having gone through it and speaking with people like yourselves, it was the furthest thing from the truth. It really did give you the opportunity to think, and it gave you a wide array of things that you could be thinking about wanting to do for your career.
Couldn't agree more. And I mean, I would just echo that, plus really teaches you how to write and think and present in different ways that I think translates into many different business environments.
So you've had, and we'll get into it, you've had some great companies that you've worked for. Coming out of school, was it Gap as your first opportunity?
No, I actually moved to New York and I worked for a business PR and investor relations firm because that was the first job I could get and I needed money to live in New York. So, took the job and knew that I wanted to work on consumer brands. So I started working on consumer brands more on the business PR side and then wanted to move out to San Francisco. I actually met my husband at Colgate and he wanted to move straight out of the snow back to San Francisco. So I figured I would try it. And when I moved to San Francisco, I moved with the company that I was with and Gap Inc. just has such an amazing reputation and just such a stronghold in the San Francisco business community. And I knew from the second I touched down that I wanted to work there, and really just started networking to figure out how I could get my foot in the door. And was fortunate enough that I got the entry level job in the Gap marketing department and started at the very bottom as the senior coordinator doing everything retail. And I think that experience, of being able to work for a brand and brands that I loved, and really start from the very bottom and sink my teeth into everything brand and retail really helped shape me and shape, how I got to where I am today.
So marketing at Gap Inc., was it for Gap brand?
It was my first job was for Gap brand. Yes.
Right. And in those days, was the focus fairly siloed? So were you focused on store marketing as opposed to digital marketing, or how was that structured?
Well, it was way back in the day, right when the e-commerce, I'm dating myself. But it was very
No,
much
notice how I stepped around that, Jamie.
exactly. I love that you stepped around that. But yes, it was very much stores focused. The e-com business was just starting out when I got there. So it was very much a stores driven business. And I started doing windows and in-store marketing as my first job and really understanding what drives traffic into a store and then how do you convert customers once they get in the store. And that is the, core of retail marketing, from a store's perspective. And that, then led me to then take a job in global advertising and had the benefit of working for 4 years doing Gap Global Advertising, which really taught me the brand side of how to emotionally build a brand and really connect that then to how to drive retail. So the ability to do both sides, both brand and retail marketing at Gap, I think I was beyond fortunate.
One of the things that's interesting when you talk to brand marketers and especially for people that are coming up in their career is this whole idea of measurement. How does the branding that I do get measured and how do I know I'm successful? Especially with so many of the people today who have that digital experience and the performance marketing aspect. So you as getting started as a brand marketer, and even today, I'm sure you're working on many initiatives that are not easily measurable. How do you measure the performance of the work that you're doing?
Well, it's changed since back then too, because the measurement has gotten a lot more, a lot more perfected since, back in the day. But some of the measurement still looks the same. How does your brand health metrics look? And that has been a measurement that marketers have looked at since the beginning of time, right? So we still look at brand health metrics, awareness numbers, obviously, more importantly, consideration numbers. Are you moving people to believe they should not just know who you are, but consider the brand? And now today, you move that through to really understand, is your direct to site traffic going up? Just people that naturally wake up on a Saturday and decide to type in rothys.com. And that is, a direct reflection of just being out in the world and getting people to think about your brand. And so whether it's traditional brand health metrics married with how consumers, behave today and what the digital world has opened up, it's, moved on, but, there's still many different ways to look at it.
Is it harder or maybe just different to move the needle in a brand that is well known like the Gap or Old Navy versus a brand that's newer and less established perhaps than when you got to Rothy's?
I think it's just different. And it's been a fun challenge, honestly. I think I was so fortunate to get to work on the Gap brand and obviously the Old Navy brand for a number of years, two of the best brands in the world and, arguably in America as well. And then the ability to take those learnings and move to Rothy's, which is a, growing business, but really use some of the learnings from from the traditional world married with how do you do things differently because Rothy's isn't known. But, at Rothy's, it's not just about driving awareness. It's what I talked about. So how do you not just get people to know the Rothy's name, but what do we stand for and why are we different than other shoe brands out there? And I think that's been the interesting part of people know who Gap and Old Navy are at their core. And Rothy's, and obviously know their name, but at Rothy's, you don't just want them to know Rothy's shoes or Rothy's even sustainable shoes. You want them to understand why we're different in the market and what makes Rothy's Rothy's. And so it's really important for us to tell the story of innovation and sustainable innovation and how the brand was born and what drove that initial DNA that still drives us today, and continues to fuel everything we do.
If you're in e-commerce and focused on profitability, you need to know about Uptick. Uptick has been quietly helping brands unlock serious revenue where most people aren't even looking. Uptick is transforming the way e-commerce brands monetize their users through post-purchase ads. Uptick's clients are adding an extra 30 to 60 cents in pure profit per order. I've personally witnessed many brands using Uptick, most of which are adding between $500,000 and $1 million annually in profit without any change to the customer purchase experience. In a world where CACs are exploding, tariffs are in place, and margins are getting squeezed, Uptick's focus on profitability is exactly what many brands need right now. If you're looking to unlock hidden revenue streams with minimal effort, check out uptick.com. So I'm going to go a little out of order since we did touch on Rothy's. We'll come back to Old Navy in a second. But while we're on Rothy's, let's talk about the brand. How long has Rothy's been around? And, you hit on some of the issues, the thoughts around sustainability.
So Rothy's actually, Stephen and Roth are co-founders. They're incredible gentlemen that they met through their wives were in a mom's group together. And it was the time when the Lululemon legging was coming out and they looked around and said, why isn't there any front of closet shoe that is similar to the Lululemon tight? And that was back in 2011, 2012-ish. And they had no reason to believe that they could start a footwear company, but they just believed that they should be able to do it. And I tell you this because it really is the spirit of the brand and the spirit of belief and possibility. And they started in 2011, 2012 saying, we're going to develop a shoe that isn't just stylish and comfortable, but it's also going to be sustainable. And that's what's going to make it different. The combination of style, comfort, and sustainability. It took them about 5 years to perfect the first shoe. So we didn't launch and go to market until end of 2016, beginning of 2017. So effectively, consumers have only known the brand, for 8 years, not even, but they were working on it and really perfecting it. And it was this belief in possibility that they founded the business with and the brand with that still drives everything we do today. And the purpose, and that's what really attracted me to Rothy's, was this idea of just continuing to push on what is possible. And when it comes to Rothy's, that means sustainable innovation and innovation in everything we do. And so obviously the product is sustainably made. We've kept 200 million bottles out of landfill to date and still counting, but it's more than that. It's how we run our factory and factory partners. It's how we run our stores, how we build our stores, how we treat our employees. And everything we do is committed to this idea of sustainability and really the belief that we can always do better and there's a better way, and that you can make a better choice that doesn't compromise on style and comfort at the same time. And that purpose is why I joined and what continues to fuel us, and the building of the brand go forward.
And that purpose, when you speak to customers, and I'm sure in your role you speak to them, all the time, does that resonate with them? Is that part of the reason that they become exposed to your brand and why they seek your brand out to shop with you?
Listen, and I would say this about most brands, the product at its core needs to be in this category cute and emotional, and you have to want the shoe and want it for its fashion credibility. And obviously, in footwear, it needs to be comfortable. So that's cost of doing business. And we've done an awesome job, and the product team has done an incredible job elevating and pushing our fashion credibility forward from a trend perspective. And that's lent us to be able to go to market from a fashion perspective in a way that Rothy's wasn't able to a couple of years ago. You take that and then add on the sustainability, and it's the combination of it all that really makes Rothy's different. So I would say if it was just sustainable, consumers are not just going to buy sustainable products. It also needs to fit the bill of being stylish and comfortable. And I think that's what Rothy's does the best.
And you're selling to what category? Men and women and kids as well.
The biggest portion of the business is women's, still women's. Kids is a fast grower. It's been awesome. We introduced the Mary Jane and the clog, and a bunch of mommy and me marketing is taking off. And men's too. We launched a men's clog off of our love of women's clogs, and actually hearing from men's customers that were buying the women's clog in a size 13 because they had to have it. So that insight of men wanting the clog, we said, well, how do we actually, suit him and give him a product that could just be his own? So we love taking consumer insights, and then putting them to work. That's a great example of it.
How many stores?
We will open our 30th store in about a week. And when I got here, we probably had six or seven, 2.5 years ago. So we've been on a tear opening retail stores.
Okay, great, great. Thanks for teeing that up. Let's jump back to Old Navy, and then we'll. I've got some more, thoughts on Rothy's. You leave the Gap brand, you go to Old Navy. What were you? What was the shift? Broader role?
Broader role and opportunity to work on another brand. And I think that's, such a benefit of working at Gap Inc. is you have the opportunity to not only do different roles within marketing organizations, but also work on different brands and learn different consumers, what makes them tick and what brands, what the brand differentiator is. And I would say, same company, very different business. And I like to say, people always ask me, do I have my MBA in marketing? And I say, no, I got it in my first job at Old Navy as the vice president of marketing. And marketing at Old Navy is such a key business driver. And you really, I mean, I would say my first 6 months in that VP role was so much of just learning the inner workings of the business. And I have to say, it was the best education you could have ever gotten.
I think it was there was a moment in time. I can't say that it is or it isn't still, but there was a moment in time that soon as a TV commercial came on, in the first 3 seconds, you knew that it was an Old Navy spot. Were you there during that period?
I was. And, a lot of campaigns you love and have so much heart for. I think probably one of my favorites was the Run to Old Navy series that we did with Amy Poehler and Julia Louis-Dreyfus. And I still laugh thinking about those spots. And they were quintessential Old Navy. They brought together the best of family fashion, fun, and value. And with that only Old Navy wink that we could deliver.
When you were, as part of Gap Inc., how did you all think about the differentiation of the consumer that was a Gap customer versus the Old Navy customer? And then I'm sure there was plenty of overlap between the two.
Yeah, there was definitely overlap. And I think at the core, the brand positioning was different. I would say at Old Navy, it was really democratize style for all of America. And if you think about it, Old Navy was founded on the belief that you don't need to sacrifice fashion and quality for price, regardless of your socioeconomic level. And that notion of inclusivity just grew and expanded as the brand grew. So whether that's gender, race, size, it just has grown. And I think that inclusivity and democratization of style positioning really, helps differentiate that brand.
Your MBA at Old Navy, and then we all look to do more and learn more. So you make a leap out of Gap Inc. to a business called Charlotte Russe. Tell us about that.
And actually, the story continues with Old Navy because Jenny Ming, who was the initial president of Old Navy, was running Charlotte Russe at the time and has been a longtime mentor of mine and actually is the CEO of Rothy's now. So the story continues with Jenny, who is an incredible role model and leader, women leader across retail and brands. And she called with the opportunity to come as the CMO. And at the time, it was a great opportunity for me to work for a private equity based business, sink my teeth into being a CMO at a smaller business. It was still big, a big business. It was close to $1 billion business at the time, and really take on the full spectrum of marketing across all channels. So, it was a great opportunity for me, learned a ton, especially under Jenny's leadership there, and then got a call to go back as the Old Navy CMO, and obviously that is a tough gig to pass up. And so I rejoined Old Navy and spent 6 years in that CMO seat, which I am so proud of and only have the best memories of.
That's great. It's a nice story, and for those folks that are listening, we try to give three key takeaways that they bring back to their personal or professional lives, and you kind of. I'm not sure you can seek this, but if you're lucky enough to find a mentor, somebody that you really look up to, and that thinks like you do, and like you mentioned here about Jenny, it's really good. Seek that out early in your career, and try to align with somebody that way. I was lucky; I had a few, and I've tried to give back now that I'm a little further along in my career.
And I feel the same way. I had so many amazing women, specific women, role models and leaders over my course of time, especially at Gap Inc., in various roles that are still lifelong friends of mine and lifelong mentors of mine. And it's a big piece of mine to give back to young women that are growing their careers, just because I feel like it was so important for me to have that as a role model growing up.
Imagine getting a message from your favorite brand that feels like it was created just for you. That's the kind of personalized experience Attentive helps retailers create, especially during the biggest shopping season of the year. With Black Friday and Cyber Monday around the corner, retailers need to reliably connect with their customers, not just during the holiday rush, but all year long. Attentive's SMS and email marketing platform turns customer data into real conversations by capturing what matters most to each subscriber, then helping you reach them with the right message at exactly the right moment. No generic blasts, just personalized experiences that make customers feel truly understood. The result? Stronger connections that drive real results during Black Friday, Cyber Monday, and beyond. Visit attentive.com to see what your customer data can do. Let's talk about channel of shopping customers. Rothy's has got stores. You've got a thriving online business. Do you sell wholesale as well?
We actually launched it a year and a half ago, so new and rapidly growing business, and been super fun to watch, launching these new channels of distribution and seeing them take off like you couldn't imagine. So it's been fun.
So for people that are listening, they're in roles like yours. How do you think about your customer, and do you choose for them to, do you guide them to shop in a particular, channel? Do you care? Or is it really all about the Rothy's brand and letting the customer shop where they choose?
Customers will choose where they shop, regardless of what you're going to try to do. And we are just happy for people to participate and shop with Rothy's, for Rothy's, wherever we can access them. And, one interesting thing that we learned, Mark, was right when I got to Rothy's, we did new consumer research. And the aware non-purchasers, the first thing they said to us was they want more access to the brand. And that was a huge unlock for us of listening to our customers and understanding that if they shop for shoes, they want to see Rothy's where they shop for various brands of shoes. And so we took it upon ourselves to say that doesn't only mean retail stores, and rolling out retail is an important piece of the Rothy's strategy. Obviously, for footwear, it's, key for people to be able to try on shoes for size and also comfort. And we love to show people how comfortable the shoes are, and have people interact with sales associates to talk to them about the style, the comfort, the washability of the shoes, the sustainability of the shoes. But that also extended into places like Nordstrom. And we heard from customers, they shop for shoes at Nordstrom. They wanted to see Rothy's at Nordstrom. And so we were fortunate enough to form a great partnership with them. And we are in stores and online at Nordstrom and seeing great success.
Yeah, I think I mentioned to you, I spent 7 years at Steve Madden, and that was a company that got its start as a wholesaler, and ultimately built out stores in full price and factory outlet and a digital business. So clearly the customers choose where they want, and giving them more doors, more opportunities is good for the brand. Let's talk about social media, which I imagine plays very heavily, paid and organic, I imagine. How does that play out in Rothy's?
Yeah, it has been such a key unlock for Rothy specifically. I would say the virality and I'll say the rebirth of this brand has really been through social and what we call the social flywheel. And we talk about it as an ecosystem. And so paid interacting with organic, interacting with in real life events with ambassadors and authentic influencers that have love for the brand, and them bringing in their networks of communities and their social communities to expand that network is really just fueling everything we do. And the ability to access new communities and new people through in real life events, new platforms. So, Shop My, we love Substack, TikTok, Instagram. We know it's similar to how people are shopping. People are absorbing brands and content across all these new platforms and existing platforms, and we need to be everywhere they are. And so the mix of paid organic, really partnering with influencers and ambassadors that love Rothy's to the core, and love us because we're stylish, we're comfortable, we're sustainable, washable, all the things. And they talk about it authentically. And I think that has spurred, what we see is just this ongoing conversation about Rothy's, whether it's specific products or just the brand. And we feel really fortunate to see that happening. And really, I do believe that that has been a key piece of the reason, Rothy's has been on a very good growth trajectory for the last couple of years.
We're recording this towards the end of July 2025. We couldn't possibly have a show without talking about AI. I was going to wait to the end, but you started talking about different places that customers can shop. What's your sense about customers being able to get started shopping in a Chat GPT or a competitor?
It is a very big topic of conversation. So I'm glad you asked. I think about this all the time, and someone gave us the stat by Q4, more consumers are going to start their holiday shopping on these tools and platforms. And I believe it, I do it myself. And so we are actively working on what does it look like to make sure you show up where the customer is, and what does that look like through your own content, through other people's content, and what is the technology needed to do that. And I think there's, that plus consumers want personalized experiences more and more to make it easier for them. And so we're actively, working on how do we make our experiences, whether it's in the store, on our site, in social, the most personalized possible to make it the most relevant for them.
We talked earlier in the conversation about measurement and how back then, measurement was different than it is today. And, there's so many more channels and there's so much more complexity and the way customers, shop in how you think about performance of your paid media and non-paid media. Have you engaged in multimedia, multi-touch attribution and MMM models? How are you thinking about that?
We use all of it. And I would say a lot of the success and the growth, has not only been because the team does an incredible job, not only planning and investing the dollars, but, doing great messaging and brand planning across the channels, but also the measurement and the unlocks that the measurement gives us to really understand how our performance is driving not just our e-com business, but also our store business and what is our brand media haloing. And frankly, the next phase of it is how is our brand media haloing to our wholesale businesses. And, it's definitely a work in progress. And as the business expands and grows, we have constant learning and constant new ways that we need to look at the measurement tools and implement different things. But I think, a key piece of the success has been the use of, multi-touch, MMM, et cetera, to really understand how everything is working together.
Any Amazon portion of the business at this point?
Yes, we launched Amazon last February, and similarly to the other wholesale channels, we have just seen incredible response and consumers engaging, with the channel. It's great. We love seeing it.
In a number of brands that I've been working with, the conversation, always tends to go to, how many of our dollars, that we're spending on the D2C side, are driving sales to D2C, but also bleeding over into Amazon and vice versa.
Yeah, and I think we're just at the beginning phases of learning. The business is relatively new, a year and a half, so a lot more learning to do, but actively working on trying to figure that portion out.
And with respect to, stores and digital, kind of the old terminology of omni-channel, what types of initiatives do you have for consumers? Are you shipping from stores, buy online, pick up in store? What kind of capabilities?
We're just starting that journey. I mean, obviously the fleet has been growing expansively, and right now it's really a find in store program from the site on, and then a lot of clienteling and connecting from customer data across. But what I would say, is the next phase we'll be looking at how do we make it more convenient for customers to get the product, faster and manage our inventory in a very efficient way. So more to come there.
Many brands are involved in loyalty programs. Some view them as a check the box. I need to have one. Tell us about, your approach.
Same thing there. Rothy's, it's incredible. We have a very, very loyal VIP customer group. Some customers have over, 10 pairs of shoes in their closets, and we love them. So we know we are ripe for a loyalty program. We do a lot of work against our VIP segments, what we call different deciles of customers. And we're working on what a larger membership/loyalty program looks like. At the time, right now, we call it VIP Lite, and do different early access opportunities for VIP customers. And we know from hearing from them, they love that and want more. So we're working on that.
That's great. And, as you think about the cliched question, what keeps you awake at night? You've got a thriving business. There's lots of moving parts. What are those few things that you really, worry about in the business?
I mean, marketing is moving so fast. And, we talked about my first job compared to what it looks like today. And the rate of change is just picked up, I mean, exponentially, even, since then. And so what keeps me up is just being constantly curious, constant learner, and trying to absorb as much information as I possibly can every day, and learning from the teams, learning from CMO communities. And, that's what keeps me up, is really just staying ahead of the curve on the change and what's available to marketers today.
And, as we wrap up the show, if you were thinking back and reflecting on the wonderful career that you've had, is there a piece of advice or two, that you'd like to, throw out to young marketers that might be listening to the show?
Yeah, I think, one of the keys to success to get to, these roles is really understanding all the different facets of marketing. And I think that is what, I think so fondly of my time at Gap Inc. across both the Gap and Old Navy brands. And then going into Charlotte Russe and Rothy's is the ability to do so many different jobs within marketing. So I can't stress enough to young marketers that want to grow their career is just try different things. Don't get siloed into one specific area of marketing because the ability to understand how it all works together from brand building and the emotional side all the way through to the analytics and understanding measurement is what makes the total discipline tick.
Good call outs. Really interesting career. It looks great on a LinkedIn, profile, but when you actually hear it come to life from a guest like you, it's really outstanding. So congratulations.
Thank you. I feel very lucky.
We are down to the end of the show. We do 7 questions. We call it the 2-minute drill. 1-word answers. Are you ready, Jamie?
I'm ready.
All right. A brand that you admire or that inspires you.
Ooh, there are a lot. But first one that comes to mind probably is New Balance. Love what they've been doing and think, incredible work taking a heritage brand and turning it into a brand for today, and love what they're doing.
Favorite app on your phone?
You'll laugh at this one, probably Life 360. I have 3 teenagers that I follow all the time.
Well, I've been there. We didn't have that kind of the tool back
Exactly.
then, but I hear you. Last website other than Amazon that you shopped from?
Sephora, love their loyalty program.
Something that you're not good at but wish that you were?
Sitting quietly.
A charitable organization that you're passionate about?
I'm on the board of the Boys and Girls Club of San Francisco and have such heart for the organization and the work the team is doing there and continue to be so proud to be part of it.
That's great. If you had one superpower, what would it be?
Loyalty.
Other than family, what's your most prized possession?
I would say my home. I'm a Cancer and I'm a homebody when I'm not traveling. So I love to be home when I can.
Okay. Jamie, where can people reach out to you on social media if they were interested in doing so?
LinkedIn.
Okay, great. This was fantastic. Thank you for the education, a run through your career, really interesting. And, we wish you continued success in building out Rothy's.
Thank you so much for having me.
That's it. Today's game ball goes to Jamie Gersch for coming on the Marketing Playbook. To me, today's 3 game-winning marketing plays were as follows. Number 1, Jamie shared her keys to success for marketers. During your career, try to take on and understand all facets of marketing. Don't get siloed in what you do. There is the brand and emotional side of marketing, and then the performance and analytics and measurement side. To be the complete marketer, you need to be exposed to both extremes and everything in the middle if you want to achieve a C-suite marketing role. And number 2, the marketing landscape is changing. Well, it's constantly evolving, but the next few years will substantially change how consumers seek out and find your products. With the various AI tools that are upon us, customers are moving their searches from Google to ChatGPT and others, so you need to be prepared to be findable by your customers and your prospects. If you're not devoting brain cells to this now, you're falling behind the competition. And number 3, mentorship. This is not a new topic for this show. You have heard Jamie speak about how many times she's worked with the current CEO at Rothy's. If you're lucky enough to find that person, leverage it as best you can. You should also try to be that person for others. Try and instill your learnings to people, and it doesn't only have to be about technical knowledge. It can be about better ways to collaborate. It could be career advice, or it might even be things about their personal lives. Thank you, Playbook marketers, for listening to another episode. If you want to check out more pages of the Marketing Playbook, make sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast spot and leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. Until next time, the devil is in the details.